Drake's complex and sometimes conflicting personality is what makes him one of the most intriguing figures in the music world. On one hand, he presents himself as a charming ladies' man who wants his listeners to feel valued and respected, as seen in some of his songs. Yet, in other tracks, he mentions a girl who supposedly rejected him, calling her a perfect 10 despite being in one of the worst clubs in recent memory, while also throwing in unexpected claims about his own identity. At times, Drake positions himself as the one, only to later reveal feelings of sadness and isolation. Perhaps the most challenging aspect for many fans to accept is his effort to portray himself as having real ties to gang life or street credibility, though these images are often just artistic expressions. Some listeners don't mind this approach, choosing to focus on his music rather than his controversial persona. So, why is it that Drake isn't given the same freedom to explore these themes as other rappers are? Given the many street-influenced figures around him, will Drake ever be regarded with the same seriousness? This question remains open, despite the widespread presence of tough characters in his circle. Because of this, many see Drake as one of the most inauthentic figures in hip-hop when it comes to the thug image. Let's take a quick look back. Early in his career, his music like on So Far Gone and Room for Improvement barely reflected that tough persona. But things shifted around his second album, when he dropped lines like, "You're gonna make someone around me catch a body like that," injecting a sharper, grittier tone into his lyrics. This change caught many fans off guard, especially those who had come to know him as an artist blending smooth R&B with mainstream sounds. At first, this shift seemed like a risky gamble that might backfire completely. This was especially striking given Drake's crew back then mainly made up of creative minds like his producer 40 and Future Prince, rather than anyone with genuine street ties. Trying to portray himself as someone he wasn't was a major gamble in a music scene where genuine authenticity has always been key, at least it used to be. Since then, though, we've seen Drake don ski masks like he's gearing up for a drill and drop lines like, "I should probably be in there with the thugs." He's even thrown out statements such as, "The weapons we got are some terrorists like TV producers, we air in this shit." It's been tough for many to buy into it at any point. More recently, during the promotion of What Did I Miss?, Drake revived his tough guy image. From showcasing the gritty Toronto street scene with scenes of 100 guns in his music video to engaging in a heated exchange with a bystander during a live webcast, he leaned fully into this persona. But then what? What's next, big dog? Stay tuned. Don't look away just yet. Don't hesitate. For now, let's pause and take it all in. It's obvious that many remain doubtful, and that's hardly shocking. After all, he's embraced an accent and mannerisms he used to ridicule in front of elite audiences, making it difficult for folks to genuinely believe in this tough guy act. At this point, it's fair to say that how people view Drake's level of threat, or the absence of it, is largely influenced by how they respond to his latest effort to come across as tough. Still, there are rare moments when some suggest he shouldn't be underestimated. But whenever people describe him as intimidating, what they're really scared of is someone else, not him. The real issue lies with Drake's ever-expanding crew. These days, seasoned street professionals outnumber the once nerdy guys from Toronto's suburbs. This group has even faced rumors suggesting they act as his personal security force. For many in his circle, Drake is their main source of income, meaning their livelihoods depend heavily on him. He provides for them, and in return, they rely on him for basics like cars, clothes, and a place to stay. Whether they admit it or not, they cherish the opportunity to be close to him. Drake has kept these people loyal by being their benefactor. He holds the power to change their lives instantly with just a single Cash App transfer. They remain invisible when he wants them to be, but never far from his side. Online, these supporters are often labeled as Drake's enforcers or thugs. Yet despite the reputation, many believe this group is actually one of the least dangerous factions within hip-hop. Drake's crew hasn't exactly been known for their sharp shooters. Most of them come off as pretty awkward. Even so, Canadian rapper Top 5 has recently become one of Drake's loudest defenders. Drake showed his support by giving Top 5 Adis, a member of the Go Get Them gang, GGG, a shout-out during Grammys Off Views while sporting his track shirt. Despite this recognition, Top 5 and his brother stayed active on the streets. After his brother was tragically killed, Top 5 and the GGG vowed revenge. Top 5 even took to Instagram, repeatedly claiming he was the one who shot the person responsible. Later, he talked about using social media as a tool for retribution. Not long after, in January 2021, he was arrested in connection with the murder of Hashim Omar Hashi, a 20-year-old second-year accounting student. Authorities said Hashi was mistakenly targeted and killed in place of Top 5's brother. Just 2 weeks after the murder, police arrested Top 5, suspecting him of involvement. They found him with several illegal drugs, including fentanyl and heroin. Considered a flight risk, prosecutors were hesitant to grant bail, and their caution was justified. Top 5 escaped by cutting off his ankle monitor and fleeing to California, only to be caught later at a Burger King. After 3 years in the system, he was finally released, having been found not guilty of all charges. He also showed gratitude to Drizzy for footing his legal bills after his release, which gave him the chance to work with Gary Grill, one of Toronto's top lawyers. Although Top 5 initially expressed a desire to focus on peace, his stance shifted dramatically once the Drake vs. Kendrick rivalry heated up. Without hesitation, he threw his support behind Drizzy, even joking that they could watch the Not Like Us music video together and decide who needed to be handled. Then he claimed he had effectively banned Lamar from setting foot in Canada. Top 5 stepped up, even acting like a J3 hitman, while others stayed quiet, confident that his previously dropped charge would shield him from any legal trouble. But Kendrick quickly revealed plans to perform in Top 5's own city, proving he clearly missed the message if he was supposed to be afraid to visit Canada. Still, on June 12th, Top 5 showed he could disrupt the GNX tour all by himself, successfully putting some people on edge, if only for a little while. Top 5 made a strong vow that Kendrick would never set foot anywhere in Canada, no matter what it took. However, members connected to TDE like Smack, along with West Coast figures such as Whack 100, dismissed any worries, implying that Top 5's street reputation doesn't clash with their own principles. Most people shared that view. As someone from Toronto, I find Top 5 amusing, but when it comes to Kenny, he's untouchable. His standing certainly didn't improve after that video of him wearing a bra surfaced, not to mention all the other negative comments. Plus, other videos show him getting thoroughly beaten by locals from the very city he claims to control. When Kendrick finally came to Canada, Top 5 staged a scene trying to storm the hotel like he was seriously living that street life. Of course, he and HJ3 soon clashed in a fiery online exchange, with Top 5 even claiming, "I'm convinced Croy the police." Meanwhile, Dot delivered a flawless performance, and for a moment, Top 5 slipped back into obscurity. But things were about to change when he joined Drake on the road to London for the Wireless Festival residency. Top 5 made it clear to the UK that he intended to be the dominant force on their streets as soon as he arrived in the English capital. However, he soon realized he wasn't as unstoppable as he had boasted. This meme turned real when just hours after making those bold claims, he was attacked. Sympathy was in short supply. He got thoroughly mocked. Was he foolish? Absolutely. He was bragging about gun-toting violence in a country where owning a firearm is illegal, and where the mindset is entirely different. After the incident and Top 5's hospital stay, the tour continued in London, with police closely examining everything that happened. This only fueled rumors that he was an informant working with UK artist Ratlin. More importantly, he ought to realize that trying to act like he owns the place when he's in unfamiliar territory might not be the smartest move, especially considering how close he came to not making it through. The Top 5 episode is just one more on a growing list of so-called Drake enforcers who've ended up doing more damage than good to his reputation. This is especially true for Baka, whose relevance became clearer after the Kendrick-Lamar clash. Baka has been part of Drake's crew since at least the More Life era, when Drake dropped the line, "That's Baka," stepping fully into that gangster persona. He's known for keeping quiet but delivering blows quickly. No need to name the next target, as they tend to crumble under pressure. Baka actually met Drake back in 2010 while shooting the music video for In My Hood, and eventually became a trusted member of his inner circle. Having someone who served 8 years in prison within his close team gave Drake a tougher edge as he shaped a more hardened image. At the same time, Baka joined OVO because it gave him a chance to build a music career. Since then, he's stood firmly by Drake's side, making it clear that disrespect won't be tolerated. Nowadays, it's hard to mention Baka's name without immediately hearing the unusual phrases that come with it. This is largely because Kendrick pleaded guilty after admitting to misconduct toward a former partner. In response, Baka claimed that his boss had instructed him not to engage and insisted that the allegations were false. Honestly, he should never have asked someone else to handle that investigation for him. If Wino's plan was to divide and conquer, then it's safe to say it partly worked, because the man meant to be Drake's stronghold is now mocked in nearly every post mentioning his name. Since all this unfolded, they've been spotted together only a handful of times, especially since Baka never even made it to London. With situations like these ongoing, and his crew struggling to hold on to any respect, he's probably questioning who he can really count on. In that case, having Chubbs around must be a relief. Chubbs has been by his side from the start, unlike someone like Top 5. For years, Chubbs has acted as Drake's head of security, constantly by his side. He was probably right there when Drake got so shaken during that punked episode that it was considered too embarrassing to air. Besides, in the footage where he did appear, he hardly came across as a tough figure. Even as time passed and their relationship faced challenges, Chubbs remained loyal to his boss. From the heartfelt thank you notes during the Thank Me Later era to celebrating his right-hand man's 40th birthday. By all accounts, Chubbs is the one who's genuinely put his life on the line and even faced the possibility of jail for Drake. Reportedly, after a disagreement over whether he wanted to be involved in Drizzy's album, Chubbs physically confronted producer Detail and left him with a broken face. During the altercation, Chubbs is said to have shouted, "I don't care, I'll hit you again." So, does that make Drake a soft guy in your eyes? Do you think he's a punk? Detail claims his injuries were so severe that he couldn't work for an entire year. And despite multiple requests, Drake never covered his medical bills. This sentiment was echoed by Toronto musician Moji, who was shouted out on the track Summer 16 but later clashed with OVO over being underpaid for his contributions to Drizzy's songs. Moji expressed his frustration openly across social media. Just days later, another man was hospitalized after being attacked, allegedly by Drake's crew, possibly even Chubbs himself. This individual, who claims mistreatment at the hands of Drake's security, offers further proof that his enforcers don't hesitate to get involved when needed. It paints a picture of someone who avoids handling his own dirty work, especially since Drake himself isn't directly involved, as Dram and other members of the OVO team who've been targeted have confirmed. On top of that, Drake often lets others take the heat when things get heated. For instance, it's clear he lost the 2014 showdown with Diddy over the 0 to 100 beat at DJ Khaled's birthday party. It's also important to remember that while some might argue Drake had to accept Diddy's established status, Drake's friend J. Cole actually got into a physical altercation with Diddy at a VMA afterparty the following year. Since there's no solid evidence that DJ Drama has ever fought, members of the Hal Gang and GGG Gang, one of whom reportedly snatched DJ Drama's chain after he allegedly joined the Meek and Drake feud and then confronted the Toronto star, have stepped up as part of Drake's crew. Then there's Drake's connection with Gilla and P. Rank, along with members of the Gway, or Galloway Boys crew, and the Reps Up label. Naturally, J. Prince stands out as perhaps the most powerful figure in his circle. For those unfamiliar, this Rap-A-Lot Records CEO has been a dominant force in Houston for years. In hip-hop history, he's seen as nearly untouchable. One example of the respect he commands is his former artist, Yuckmuth. Since Drake first partnered with the influential J. Prince, the Houston legend has vowed to stand by him no matter what. Some even believe that when Drake's feud with Kanye spiraled out of control, J. Prince pressured Ye into making a public statement that felt more like a hostage negotiation than a speech. It quickly became clear that the whole thing wasn't genuine. Many believe that if J. Prince truly wanted to, he has the power to end careers with ease. The responses that followed only confirmed that J. Prince likely wrote the whole statement himself. Behind the scenes, it even seemed like he was threatening someone with a gun. Despite all the tough talk and the protection his crew provides, Drake still struggles to shake the reputation of being soft, a label that has followed him since the start of his career. And it's only when he tries too hard to prove otherwise that people find it more amusing than convincing. If there's a reason for this perception, it's not because of outside forces. It lies squarely with Drake himself. Some argue his own personality fuels the image of weakness, while others blame stereotypes about Toronto. To many, Drake is seen as the gentle, polished Canadian. To some proud but narrow-minded Americans, Canada is just hockey and maple syrup. Because they don't believe Drake could ever be tough or street smart, his references to bravado and street life in his lyrics come across as fiction. As a Canadian, I can assure you that it's not just about softness. People like Drake, because of his relaxed style, his beachy vibe, his hats, his manicured look. The use of hundreds of guns in the What Did I Miss music video felt anything but real, especially since he seemed more like an actor playing a role than someone living that life. Even those who typically support him, like Charlemagne, openly criticize the video for feeling so inauthentic. Instead of changing the narrative around him, it reminds me of the scene in Euphoria where Ka blurts out, "Pray for my city." I really dislike when rappers talk about guns. Someone ends up dead and suddenly they act like saints. They do it just to get likes and online sympathy, pretending to be something they're not. After all, this is the same guy who once dedicated a verse on Snoop Lionn's No Guns Allowed to Joshua Ye and Cheyenne Charles. It's painful to lose two young people in Toronto while they're just drinking and watching the news from their own home. Two more names will be added to the memorial: And you can bet that if Top 5 had died, he'd be online paying tribute to the man who was happy playing Drake's enforcer. On top of that, with stunts like the time T.I.'s crew member urinated on Drizzy's leg and faced almost no consequences, it's clear he's been in the ring more times than people realize, taking plenty of hits himself. Here's another K-Dot lyric that ages like fine wine. Son, don't let another man piss on your leg. Son, you gotta kill that man right there or shoot him in the head. But the same reality hits Drake when he's away from his so-called kingdom, Toronto. Back in 2009, he was robbed outside a local restaurant, losing $2,000 in cash, an Audemars pet watch, and a diamond necklace gifted by Lil Wayne. Draped in a jacket and sweater, he realized it was a setup. Drake recounted how he slammed a revolver against the car window and said, "Yo, run that chain," as soon as the door opened. He later reflected on the incident, noting the thief's wallet was left untouched, leading him to say, "All right, you set the whole thing up." To make matters worse, early reports suggested Drake cooperated with the investigation, a move often seen as a major betrayal in hip-hop, regardless of the truth. Kendrick touched on this again when he rapped about Abby, the new Ho King, eating fried rice with dip sauce and a blammy Croy on Euphoria. Unlike Drake, Kendrick hasn't claimed to be a gangster, but understands the rules and respect that come from his upbringing, even though he steers clear of trouble. This contrast explains moments like when Drake allegedly fled the 100 video shoot after spotting guns, highlighting the difference in temperament and experience. He also tried to exploit Kendrick's refusal to claim gang ties. Meanwhile, legends like Compton's MC8 argued that because Toronto is largely unaware of these realities, it lacks the credibility to get involved or take a stand. It goes even deeper than that. There's little chance he's a true mobster or involved in anything more serious than throwing shade at the harsh DeMar DeRozan from the sidelines after suing UMG over the fight or shouting at someone from a distance during a live stream. Current reports reveal that Drake is now taking his battles to the courtroom, as his lawyers have listed 63 potential witnesses in the initial filings of his defamation lawsuit against Universal Music Group. This legal move highlights a shift from street posturing to fighting disputes through legal channels, a far cry from the tough, gritty image he tries to project. Meanwhile, critics and fans alike expressed disappointment that neither Drake nor his team, including his loyal security chief Chubbs, are doing much to improve their public image. Although Chubbs hasn't caused any major scandals recently, the fact that Drake's rap feuds are now ending up in court underscores the gap between the persona he portrays and the reality behind the scenes. Despite the efforts to adopt a tougher, streetwise identity, many still love Drake for who he truly is, appreciating his authentic self rather than the exaggerated thug act. The attempts to reshape his image often come across as forced and even embarrassing, suggesting a disconnect between his upbringing and the world he now tries to inhabit. No matter how many notorious figures he may know or surround himself with, Drake himself is not involved in actual criminal activity, and for many, that's a relief. It's time to acknowledge that Drake wasn't raised in a hardcore environment and that his attempts to mimic street toughness, including adopting an accent he once mocked, risk distorting how people see him. This manufactured persona might even undermine his artistic credibility in ways that better music alone can't fix. Embracing his true identity rather than forcing a facade could not only preserve his reputation, but also allow his music to speak more powerfully for itself. Ultimately, Drake's journey highlights the challenge of balancing image and authenticity in a genre where realness matters more than ever.